It can be done. Our engineers, our limitless resources, our skilled mechanics and tremendous production lines impose no limits on America's growing air might. You can say it again. It can be done. But sometimes it's done with less, and it's done quickly to meet a problem or an emergency that wasn't foreseen. The boys who flew those P-40s in the early days will tell you that every extra mile of range helped balance the pathetic odds. It was a case of now, not tomorrow, and it was done.
This is the F82 twin Mustang by Modelsvit. It was a long-range escort fighter, night fighter, and all-weather interceptor. It was built with the Pacific War in mind. The P-51 was a great plane, but it didn't have the range that the United States needed for missions over the vast Pacific Ocean. And with the budget and time crunch in mind, it wasn't possible to design a whole new aircraft from the ground up to meet this need. So they took two P-51 Mustang fuselages, strapped them together with a center wing, and found this greatly increased its range. It allowed for two pilots. This would allow one pilot to focus on flying the long distances, leaving the other pilot fresh for combat when they found it. They hoped this twin Mustang could aid in the bombings of Tokyo, and in the invasion of the Japanese mainland on the horizon.
We switched to London. I don't know what happened. I'm not even sure whether you heard the first words of Prime Minister Attlee or not. I couldn't hear anything in our speaker here. With the confusion, suddenly we got the word from our private telephone wire from the White House in Washington. The Japanese have accepted fully the surrender terms of the United Nations. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the Second World War.
Well, the F-82 didn't make it into World War II. Its first flight was in June of 1945, but it wasn't produced and put into service until 1946. The focus shifted from war with Japan to a possible nuclear war with the Soviet Union. The F-82 found a new role in the Cold War when the Soviets rolled out the Tupolev Tu-4 during a broadcasted airshow. The Tu-4 was a strategic bomber, developed loosely from the American B-29. The US was hoping to have jet interceptors, a newly emerging technology, to counter Soviet strategic bombers. But while the jets were still under development, the F-82 would have to do, as it was versatile enough to fulfill the role of bomber interceptor.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt the program for just a moment for two important bulletins from the wires of United Press. From Seoul, Korea, the North Korean radio says the North Korean Communist government formally declared war on South Korea, effective at 11 a.m. Sunday, Korean time.
June 25th, Communist forces attacked the Republic of Korea. This attack has made it clear beyond all doubt that the international communist movement is willing to...
So for the moment, the threat of nuclear war with the Soviets was dissipated by the Korean War, in which the twin Mustang saw immediate use. After a report was received of a North Korean invasion, a squadron of twin Mustangs was sent out on reconnaissance to confirm. This was the first air combat mission of the United States during the Korean War. The following day, F-82s escorted transport planes to aid in the evacuation of American citizens from the newly developing front lines. The F-82s engaged with North Korean aircraft, scoring 3 enemies downed. This was the first air-to-air victory of the Korean War. The F-82 saw more success during the Korean War, especially versus ground forces. In one mission alone, a squadron of F-82s destroyed a bridge, over 30 tanks, and over 100 trucks. As jet technology progressed, the F-82's role as a transition fighter was realized, and it began to be phased out. No more F-82s were produced after 1947, and as they were damaged or destroyed, they were replaced by other fighters. Finally, in 1953, the F-82 was completely phased out and replaced by jet fighters. The F-82 had a short life, but it really helped bridge the gap between props and jets. This kit is available at MRS Hobby Store in Salt Lake City and Sandy, or online at kitlinks.com.